Ah, you're back. You buying something?
Where's my cut of the profit?
Oh, yeah. Here's your cut.
Cool.
Not a bad job, manning the soda fountain. Huh?
I just need to trade gear with you.
Go ahead.
Dangerous world out there. Good thing, too. Otherwise, no business for doctors, am I right?
Are you really a doctor?
Am I a doctor? Let me show you my degree from the School of Saving Wise Asses like you. I'm a positive institution in these parts, so you need help or what?
Yeah. See what's wrong with me, Doctor.
You have any of those symptoms? Tell me about it.
Actually, it's nothing.
Fine. Come back later.
No, sorry.
Tropical adventure.
Grognak, you must help my baby. The shaman says he's hungry for milk, but I fed him already and he won't stop crying.
Do not worry. Grognak is skilled at quieting children.
Wait, what are you doing? Oh my God! You killed my baby!
Foolish woman, that was not your baby. It was a bad baby, and the only thing it's hungry for is blood.
You are only half right, barbarian. That was indeed my baby, for I am the Bat Queen. And as payment for your insolence, my children will feed on you until your blood runs dry.
Grognak does not feed the children. He orphans them. Will Grognak stop the Bat Queen and save the jungle tribe? Or will her bat babies use the villagers as their own private bottle? Find out in this hubris comics presentation of Grognak and the Jungle of the Bat Babies. When a city is besieged by bandits and its queen seeks the aid of a magic lamp, only one man can be counted on to retrieve it. Grognak, the Barbarian. Yet this is no ordinary genie, for his lamp has been buried for 1,000 years in cursed sand.
Oh, great and powerful genie, please grant my wish. My kingdom is at the mercy of bandits, and only your power can save it.
I will grant your wish, Queen. But in exchange, you and your people will submit to my rule.
So you'd make us all your slaves? That's not what I asked for at all.
Isn't it? You asked me to save you from the bandits. At no point did you specify the terms.
Tell me, you bag of hot air, can a genie grant his own wish?
I don't see why not.
Good, because when Grognak is through with you, your wish should never been born. Can no hero defeat the genie and the bandit horde? Or has the kingdom trapped itself in the walls of its own wish? Find out in this hubris comics presentation of Grognak the Barbarian in Demon Slave, Demon Sands. On a planet forged in fire and blood live maidens bred for war. Only one man stands between them and total annihilation. Grognak the Barbarian. Yet to save Earth, he must slay a four-armed goddess whose might is as infinite as space. Enter Mola, War Maiden of Mars.
Heed my words, you pathetic earthlings. Mala has come to your cowardly planet with a single demand. You will bring her your greatest warrior, so she may remove his head.
Grognak accepts your challenge.
You are the Earth's champion? How many men have you slain? Where are the skulls on your belt?
Grognak does not wear the skulls of his enemies. He crushes them.
Ha! You may have bested the warriors of Earth, but your luck has run out. For today you face Mala, War Maiden of Mars.
The only thing Grognak is out of is patience, which means you, Red Woman, are out of time. Will Grognak slay the War Maiden and defend the Earth's honor? Or will Mola add his skull to her collection of champions? Find out in this hubris comics presentation of Grognak versus Mola, War Maiden of Mars. High atop the snow-drenched mountains of Hibonia, upon peaks no mortal dare climb, lays an orb with the promise of spring. Only one man is virile enough to conquer its icy summit, Grognak the Barbarian. But these aren't just any snows. These are the fabled snows of lust.
My dear barbarian, I fear you made a mistake in coming here. It is known that no mortal man can resist the snows of lust. For when you gaze upon its beauty, Any desire to climb this mountain will be frozen solid.
It is you who tempt death, Siren, for you underestimate the fire in Grognak's loins.
By the winters of Asgard, such heat.
Now do you see, woman? Grognak's desire does not freeze, it burns.
Will Grognak beat back the bordello of blizzards? Or will the snows of lust seduce our hero and leave the land in an endless winter? Find out in this special adventure, Grognak the Barbarian, lost in the snows of lust. In the shadowy forests of Raynar lives a formidable adversary who fights with a quick wit and a sleight of hand. In all the world, only one man can be considered his better. Grognak, the Barbarian. Watch him match wits with a diabolical trickster in this tale of sharp minds and sharper swords.
You fell into my trap again, Grognak. And only by solving my riddles will you save yourself from death.
Grognak has no time to play your little boy games, trickster.
Foolish barbarian, still using every muscle except the one that counts.
And what muscle would that be?
What do you think, you mindless ape? The brain!
Ha! Shows what you know. Grognak does not use his brain to count. He uses his fingers. The same fingers he will use to break your neck.
Will Grognak solve the trickster's riddle? Or will this puzzling predicament be his ultimate undoing? Find out in this one-of-a-kind, brain-teasing adventure, Grognak the Barbarian in Here Cometh the Trickster! You've seen Grognak the Conqueror destroying the forces of evil and hearing the lamentations of their women. You've watched Grognak the Traveler sailing the Forbidden Sea to slay the great Leviathan, Two-Tails. You've seen him match wits with the wily Mansaurian and tame the passions of the warrior princess, Femra. Now join him on his most exciting adventure as Grognak travels to New York. Sent to an alternate dimension by the warlock Skullpocalypse, Grognak must find his way home in a strange land filled with planes, trains, and automobiles, all while being hunted by the mob.
You're a dirty rat, Grognak. You were supposed to take a dive in the 5th round, and now the Dons put a bounty on your head. Egg is on you,
well,
son.
there's more cats in the game.
Grognak cannot dive where there is no water, and he never met Don. For the last time, Don's not an ape, it's a title.
One of the residents of Diamond City, their entire apartment is nothing but cats.
And into the popcorn stand. That ain't even boxing. It's wrestling. Jesus, Grog, it's like you were born in the Stone Age or something. Grognak does not know, but he tell you one thing. The Stony Age end tonight. Ah!
Will Grognak make it back to his own time? Or will the mob have our heroes swimming with the fishes? Find out in this special motion picture event, Grognak in New York.
Oh, it's on!
From $1 a dance to a place in the spotlight, from the cold lap of a stranger to the hot lap of luxury, Edith Renning, a determined girl, climbed out of the seedy underpants of Chicago and into the nation's sweater vest. The very same sweater that warms the heart. But behind the fabric, Edith Renning had a secret. Her rise to stardom was launched by a catapult named Murder. Her partner in crime, a lab-created monster whose strength was as infinite as his shadow. A mutant.
Kill them all! Kill them all!
Let me help you, Edith. I'll get you to the right people, and they'll work with you because they'll want you. And they won't have to have their arms ripped out or their head crushed by a sledgehammer. They'll want you because you're good. I'll try it, Edith. Try it that way. For me.
Don't be famous, but you're still too dumb for stupid, high-class dame like you!
It's a rag-to-riches story, where fame has a price, It's about life in the fast lane, with a pass riding in the back seat offering directions.
It's fun to be able to do that, but it only will happen until you,
real people, real dreams.
You can only do that until you meet Dance. As soon as you meet Dance, you can't hurt the Brotherhood of Steel anymore. Whatever.
Critics and moviegoers agree, On the Waterfront is the greatest film of our time.
Oh no, I need to go over here.
You want my philosophy on life? Do it to him before he does it to you. Then do it to his sister while you're at it.
Why his sister?
I don't know. Insult to injury.
Okay, I think I get it. So, if I'm walking past a homeless person, I should ask him for change.
No, that's not what I meant.
But you said do it to him. I'm asking him for money before he has the chance to ask me.
Look, it doesn't apply to everything. The point is, I'm a tough guy. What do you want, Father?
Your confession. Also, you're double parked, and I need the space.
Tell it to Jesus. If you want, I can deliver you to him.
Is that your solution for everything? Violence?
It used to be. But now I make an exception for homeless people. And last time I checked, Father, you got a roof over your head.
We've got the baddest bullies and the baddest harbor in the world. And you? You ain't so bad.
You ain't so bad yourself, Lee.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying I ain't so bad as in I'm a nice guy?
Yeah. Wait, what are you saying?
You know who the pistols are. In fact, there's one of them right in this room. We all know who he is, but we're afraid to say his name. And why? Because he'll shoot us? Well, that's probably a pretty good reason, but that's my parking space, and he has no right to take it.
It's a love story with brass knuckles. A heartwarming children's movie with gore and violence. It's the one motion picture you must see. On the Waterfront. Space, from where no one knows. For what reason, few cared. And yet, when the alien known as the Grillion stepped out of his flying saucer and shot the president, the people had no choice but to watch the skies.
Do not be alarmed, humans. I come in peace.
But you just shot the president.
Never mind that. It was an accident. But don't worry. I've already replaced your fleshy leader with my top lieutenant, Ford. You will find him more than capable of running your puny planet.
All hail, President Ford. All hail.
He's a machine. How can he be trusted to run the country?
There's no limit to what Ford can do. He could destroy the Earth. He could balance the budget. Odds are, he will do at least one of those things. Either way, it is not my concern.
All hail, President Ford. All hail, President Ford.
Never before have you seen a creature like this. Cold, unfeeling, with laser cannons for arms and veto power over the House and Senate. It's a science fiction adventure you won't soon forget when President Ford goes to Washington. You've seen the attack of the 50-foot woman, as well as the blitzkrieg of the 60-foot Nazi. Now get ready for twice the horror and 3 times the heels, as we present to you the most frightening monster ever known to man.
Don't you see, Johnny? She was just an ordinary pork bun peddler. None of this would have happened if it weren't for that blasted cookie.
But it's just a fortune cookie. What's the harm in that?
That was no ordinary cookie. Not after the gamma rays had their way with it.
And that turned her into a monster?
Of course not. If anything, it gave her radiation poisoning. No, it wasn't the cookie that turned her into a monster. It was the fortune written inside.
Why? What did it say?
From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. It was Marx, Johnny. Karl Marx.
Oh, God. But
Excuse
that
me.
means...
That's right. They're coming. For you, for me, even the dog. And it's not with a gun in their hand or a bomb in the sky. They're doing it with snacks, Johnny. Little cookies that promise you the future, all while stealing it out from under you.
Can Johnny restore freedom and end the socialist threat? Will the health inspector discover the source of the gamma radiation? Find out in the most patriotic motion picture ever made, A Socialist's Fortune.
Coming to a theater near you, it's Teenagers from Outer Space. It's a horror movie 1,000 times more terrifying than anything you've ever seen. High on hormones, deliriously full of drugs, these teens are on a ray gun rampage you won't believe. Just who do you think you are anyway?
I'm a teenager from space.
Watch as legions of irresponsible young adults terrorize this small town with one hormone-induced gambit after another.
What is it, Danny? What's got you so terrified?
Marge, statistics say there's nothing more dangerous than a teenager behind the wheel. Now, imagine that teenager behind the wheel of a flying saucer.
Oh my God! We have to do something.
We can't do anything. Don't you see? The insurance policies won't cover it. Will Danny and Marge survive this invasion? Will they keep their teenager from falling in love with her reckless alien captors? Find out in this one-of-a-kind motion picture event, Teenagers from Outer Space.
Some history. On this date in 1962, the home team faced up against that mighty juggernaut from San Francisco in a game that would go to extra innings. 21 all told before the night was over. Or rather, after the night was over, as the game went well into the daytime.
Why would you use a mini
Here's what the San Francisco skipper had to say.
Skipper, you had Marshall on the mound today, and he was the bee's knees, a real Dominican dandy. But given how many innings he threw, can he continue to be your butter and egg man all the way to the champ's ball?
I think he can. He's our horse, and we're gonna ride him.
And what about your thoughts on what the Millville media said after the game? He said by tomorrow he's forecasting on a full shower of baseballs up in the upper deck. Do you see your team jitterbugging around him, or will you invite him to the dance with a little chin music?
We don't have to pitch to him. That's what you're asking. It doesn't matter how good your opponent is. You can always take the bat out of his hands.
Is that what you're planning to do, Coach? Give him the old four-finger wackaroo?
You'll see.
Well, the next night, the skipper, true to his word, walked the Meteor 5 times. Unfortunately for him,
I don't know where the other
effort provided enough fireworks to light up the sky 10 times over.
I think I've walked
And the home
past
team
most of
took the
them
trophy home on this date in 1962.
No clue where Doc Anderson will be.
And now, some history. On this date in 1951, Rocky Marciano took on the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, in a matchup of two of the sport's greatest titans. Few knew it at the time, however, as Louis was nearing the end of his career, and Rocky was merely starting it. Such is the whimsy of time that the two would never meet at their respective peaks.
Champ, it looked like you had the bomber doing the turkey trot out there like it was 2 days before Thanksgiving. How long before you realized that goose was cooked?
Joe Louis is a great champion and a great man. I have nothing but respect for him. It's just my time.
So what's next for you, champ? Are you going to get a shot at the title? Because the way I see it, you got fire in those hands, and Jersey Joe's sweating gasoline.
Well, I still have a few more fights before I can get a title shot. But I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Marciano would go on to win those fights and every fight after, finishing his career at 49-0 with 43 knockouts. But on that night, it was about two legends going on separate paths, but occupying the same ring. On this date in 1951.
Special report on a new thriving industry in Detroit. Here with me now is correspondent Sam Harris. Now, you spent 4 weeks in the inner cities for this story. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And what's your conclusion? Have the taxes on handguns had any effect when it comes to the situation on the ground?
None whatsoever, it seems. While increased costs have resulted in less gun purchases overall, I'm happy to report the citizens of Detroit have taken matters into their own hands.
What's this you have here?
It's what local gangs refer to as a pipe pistol.
Amazing! And it's built entirely from parts found at your local hardware store.
That's correct. Just pipes, springs, and nails. In fact, it's not just materials you'll find at the hardware stores. You'll often see foot soldiers at the junkyards, too, finding new ways to turn scraps into shotguns.
Recycling old parts seems like it'd be good for the environment as well. The next time I throw away an appliance, I can rest easier, knowing it might find a second life as a murder weapon.
That's exactly right. In Detroit, I'd say it's almost guaranteed.
You seem impressed by their ingenuity.
I am. As a firearms owner, it's just refreshing to see that even with the increased costs and barriers to gun ownership, nature finds a way.
Fantastic. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this evening, but I want to thank Sam Harris for this special investigative report. Tune in tomorrow for our monthly series on flying saucers, truth, conspiracy, or hoax. And to Americans at home and abroad, we bid you good night.
On this day in 1959, 2 years after the Russians sent a dog into orbit, the United States of America demonstrated their own aeronautical ingenuity by making Mr. Pebbles the first cat in space. Here's an explanation from NASA's chief director, Dr. Irene Braun, on why she chose a feline for this mission.
Well, we believe the independence displayed by the domestic cat made it a far greater candidate for space travel. We've all seen what happens when dogs are without their master. I think it's safe to say that poor Russian canine went insane from the claustrophobia alone. Mr. Pebbles, in contrast, will feel more at home the further he gets away from it.
600 miles up, our intrepid feline joined the meteors in orbit, traveling at speeds of 18,000 miles an hour. A shocked Russian community could only look on in awe as America once again flexed its extraordinary might. Meanwhile, the President, the French Prime Minister, and other NATO leaders gathered in Paris to discuss the politics of the coming space age. Their decision? That 3 European nations would be armed with their own feline astronauts, Mr. Whiskers, Miss Pussy, and folk singer Cat Stevens, further strengthening the coalition's alliance in the years to come. But none of this would be possible without the heroics of Mr. Pebbles, the first cat in space, on this day in 1959.
Tomorrow night, 15,000 cheering fans will pack the arena in Boston, Massachusetts to watch a giant basketball doubleheader. In that cheering crowd, sitting in row C, seat 11, will be a modest 77-year-old man. Those fans won't know that he's made possible the game they're watching. But you're going to meet him now. Horizon Airlines has brought him here all the way from Lawrence, Kansas. Dr. James A. Naismith, the inventor of basketball. Dr. Naismith, how did you happen to invent the game?
Well, Mr. Heater, it was the winter of 1891 when I was a physical instructor at Springfield College right here in Massachusetts. We had a real New England blizzard. For days, the students couldn't go outdoors, so they began roughhousing in the halls. We tried everything to keep them quiet. We tried tying them up. We tried showing them pornography, but they got bored with that. Something had to be done. One day, I had an idea. I called the boys to the gym, divided them up into teams of 9, and gave them an old soccer ball. I showed them 2 peach baskets I nailed up at both ends of the gym, and I told them the idea was to throw the ball into the opposing team's peach basket. I blew a whistle, and the first game of basketball began.
And what rules did you have for your new game, Dr. Naismith?
Well, I didn't have enough, and that's where I made my big mistake. The boys began dribbling between their legs and doing things I never intended to happen. One boy grabbed the ball and dunked it in the basket before doing a celebratory dance. As you can imagine, I was mortified. When I added a rule to prohibit excess displays of emotion, the game went along much more smoothly. But, much to my dismay, the histrionics kept on. Some of the boys started making passes without looking and dribbling behind their back. It was only a matter of time before the game became an outlet for this sort of exhibitionist behavior, the sort of thing we associate with deviancy and drug use. After that first match, I began to worry that basketball was too exciting a sport for young men to play, but the boys kept nagging me to let them play again. So I made up some more rules, the most important one being no dunking of the basketball or fancy dribbling of any kind. We tried the game out with those rules, focusing on the fundamentals, and nobody was shown up this time. We had a fine, clean sport. 10 years later, basketball was being played all over the country, and the whole thing was started with a couple of peach baskets and a need for peace and quiet. It just goes to show you what you can do if you have to. Indeed it does.
When you wake up in the morning and you think, ouchie, my back hurts, you have to wonder, what's in your mattress? Well, let's take a look at all current mattress technologies. Spring mattresses are bouncy.
A reminder to all teenagers everywhere, keep off the grass. No, we're not talking about your neighbor's lawn, although it's a good idea to stay off that as well. Your neighbor worked very hard to keep his property free and clear of children, and he shouldn't have to remind you to stay off it. But no, the grass we're talking about is far more lethal than Mr. Gunderson's empty threats to call the police. The grass known as cannabis, or reefer in some circles, is a poison more dangerous than all the world's drugs combined. This is because reefer is a gateway drug, and behind that gate are more harmful substances like heroin, cocaine, and angel dust. By surviving your experience with grass, you'll feel emboldened to try substances you wouldn't have considered otherwise, descending further and further until your checklist of drug-induced madness is complete. And what about grass itself? You might think on its own, the effects are rather harmless. But studies show that even a single inhale can induce fits of laughter for no reason at all. Tommy here is on his 5th cigarette, and the list of things he now finds hilarious are astonishing. Tommy's latest joke involves running through a stop sign and driving his car into a playground full of school children. These are actions he would normally find abhorrent, but high on grass, there is nothing in the world he finds funnier than listening to their screams. As you can see, it's a slippery slope from trying grass at a party to serving life in prison for manslaughter. At the time, you couldn't have known just how dangerous it was, but the fact is, reefer isn't just a threat to your life, it's a threat to everyone around you.
Let me tell you the story of Marvin. He's a good, clean boy from a loving family. But Marvin has a weakness. He wants to fit in with the other boys at school. And unfortunately, some of them are very, very bad. When one of them offers him a marijuana cigarette, Marvin is so desperate to be included that he'll smoke 5, 10, or 20 times the average delinquent, even if it kills him. And this time, it just might. Several hours after his first joint, Marvin's drug-addled brain has hit on a clever idea for opening bottles. What if instead of using a bottle cap opener, he simply smashed the top off? Broken bottle in hand, Marvin continues to drink, at no point realizing that shards of glass have severed his tongue. While blissfully unaware of his impending death, Marvin has another idea. With bottle caps no longer being produced by soda companies, what if they could be used as a currency? He posits that a fixed, controlled supply of currency will safeguard against the perils of inflation.
How are there
and
still
provide
sugar
the
bombs
foundation for
available
a
for
stable
people to
economy.
eat?
The idea never
It's been
gains
200
traction,
years since
however,
that factory
as
closed
Marvin
down.
can no longer communicate in words while choking on his own blood.
They must have had a surplus of sugar bombs that evidently never go rancid.
It could happen to you, to your children, or a family friend. That's why it's important to talk to your kids about the dangers of illegal narcotics and steer them towards safer alternatives, such as alcohol and tobacco. Their health and well-being depends on it.
Stein residence, Gertrude speaking.
Hey, Gertie. I got some bad news. Billy at the shop needs me to cover for him. Something about bees in his pants?
Oh my, that sounds serious.
Yeah. Supposedly, he's only got a 10% chance to keep his dingling, but that's not why I'm calling, honey bun. I wanted to let you know that I'll probably have to cancel on our date tonight.
That's a shame. Oh well, I'll see you when you get home, dear.
Love you.
Love you too.
Did she buy it? Hook, line, and sinker, Billy. I bet it was the bees that scared her. People are terrified of bees. That's your ignorance talking. Without bees, the world would be a scary place. There'd be no flowers, no fruits, and no apiologists. What now? Apiologists, Billy. That's a fancy name for beekeeper. Now, if you want to talk about something scary, that would be the tarantula hawk. Is that some kind of bird? It's a wasp. And if you had one of those in your pants, the last thing you'd be doing is going to the ball game. Oh no, should I be worried? What if they have a taste for human flesh? Haha, no. The tarantula hawk, or cazador as they're called in some parts, is too small to eat humans. You're not going to look up in the sky and find a swarm of them stinging people. And do you know who we have to thank for that? Bees? Sure, why not? In fact, when the ball game's over, why don't we go back to your place and I'll tell you about the time a bumblebee saved my life. Wow, bees really are man's best friend. And don't you forget it.
Yeah, they're not gay. They just play well on TV.
Man, this park really needs cleaning up. It's hard to run and play with the field in such bad shape. And that's not even counting all the litter.
Hey, kid, I'm not litter. I'm a bill.
You're a what now?
A bill to clean up this very park. Before that, I was an idea, pulled right out from your bottom. Thanks for not wiping, by the way. Anyways, kid, the point is, if you take me to Capitol Hill, I can someday become a law.
How do we make you a law?
Well, it takes a majority vote, usually. Thing is, a lot of voters don't have a reason to want to clean up your park. So, you gotta convince them.
How do we do that?
Easy.
Just this one last
we just
time.
change up some of my words so I appeal to more people. Like instead of me saying, let's clean up the park, what if I said, let's clean up the park by building a cigarette factory on top of it, and then gave the money to our good friends at Grey Tortoise to build it?
But that's not what I asked for at all. I want the park to be clean so I can run and play.
Don't worry, we'll also add a provision that lets companies advertise in schools. And once you've tasted all the premium tobacco found in every Grey Tortoise cigarette, your lungs will be too damaged to want to do exercise of any kind.
I don't know, Bill. That doesn't sound very fun.
Oh, so you're just gonna let me die?
Die?
That's right. If I don't get past, kid, I die on the house floor. And do you know what that makes you? A murderer.
Oh no, what have I done?
Nothing yet. That's why it's so important that we add the right language so I get past. And remember, we're gonna need to sway not just the House and the Senate, but also the President.
Really? What does he want?
Does it matter? You want your cigarette factory built, don't you? Well, we'll need to pull a few extra strings to get it. But I think some new curtains in the White House might go a long way.
And maybe a new bike for me?
Now you're getting it, kid. Now come on, let's go get me past. But how I hope and pray that I will, but today I am still just a bill. He signed your bill, now you're a law.
This is Brad. Every morning, he starts his day by refusing to get out of bed. It isn't until his mother drags him out that he even bothers to open his eyes. Wake up, Brad. It's time for school. Oh, have you been putting on weight? Does she have to do this every morning, Brad? Even if you're a hopeless lout, at the very least you could stop being a burden to everyone else. Meanwhile, your sister Karen has already gotten dressed, and even has time to set the dining table. It's not that Karen likes mornings, far from it. But knowing this, she planned ahead by picking out her clothes the night before. And while she may be groggy, a bowl of sugar bombs and a dose of mentats is all she needs to get ready for school. And Brad, notice how Karen is never late for the bus. On the other hand, it's clear by that dog trot that you've not only missed the bus, but your shoes are on the wrong feet. Now the neighbors are pointing and laughing, not just at you, but at your parents for having raised such a helpless, clumsy child. And the embarrassment doesn't stop once you arrive at school. If you thought the neighbors were cruel, then you obviously weren't prepared for the jeers of your fellow classmates.
Nice shoes, Brad, you dingus.
Yeah, Brad, you dingus.
Perhaps you even resent Karen, who, with the help of her mentats addiction, answered every question the teacher raised and got a perfect score on the recent test. After school, you find two of your classmates making eyes at each other. They're obviously having a private moment, but given your inability to read a room, let alone a book, you can't help but interrupt them.
Hey guys, what you up to? Hey Brad, what are you doing here?
Yeah, Brad, we're kind of busy. Is there something you want?
Well, yeah, how's the weather? The weather? Why don't you just look out the window and see for yourself?
That didn't go very well, now did it? Not only did you ruin Sally's first kiss, but worse yet, you added nothing to the conversation. It turns out you don't know the first thing about weather, Brad, so it would be smart to stop asking about it. Oh, please. It's a little late for tears, isn't it, Brad? You've had your whole life to prepare for this day, and now you've blown it. In the end, you have no one to blame but yourself. Does Brad remind you of anyone? If so, there's really only one way to prevent deviant behavior like this. Preparation. By planning ahead, you can avoid making the mistakes Brad makes, or at least give yourself more time to correct them. Remember, in life there are rarely any real surprises. There's only failure to prepare for them.
Is a country founded on liberty and virtue. These are things that must be nurtured from generation to generation, lest they wither away to the vagaries of time. You might be wondering, why should I donate my free time to civil service? Well, let me ask you a question. Are you a citizen or a communist? It may seem like an obvious question. Of course you're a citizen. Most of you were born here, whereas some of you may have come here and taken the oath. But citizenship is about more than just being on American soil. It's about maintaining a loyalty to the principles this country was founded on.
Yes.
Which is why many of you well-meaning individuals may be communists without even knowing it. Do you resent the good fortune displayed by our wealthiest citizens?
Who doesn't?
Then you might be a communist. Do you often question the actions of your leaders in government?
Always.
Then you might be a communist. Do you sometimes feel an attraction to your fellow man that goes beyond platonic?
Well...
You could be a homosexual, but also a communist.
Don't.
Do you find yourself speaking Russian in your sleep? Or pictures of Lenin in your home? Well,
who doesn't?
Then you might just be a communist. Even if you answered no to the previous questions, it doesn't mean your work is done. It is your job as an American citizen to report any suspicious behavior to the proper authorities. It could be your neighbor, your boss, or even your congressman. Being an American is about more than having the right documents. Remember what it says in the Constitution. As an American, you have the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of communists, wherever they may hide.
That's actually the Declaration of Independence. Oh, that's the Constitution. It's the preamble, don't mind.
Did you know that the oldest known chameleon was found in Anhui, China? That's right. The very same country that serves as the capital for modern socialism. So it's not surprising that in recognizing a communist, physical appearance can sometimes be misleading. Many communists dress and behave like ordinary American citizens, blending into their surroundings just like their chameleon ancestors. So, how do we identify them? It's not an easy question to answer. That's why if you encounter someone you suspect is a communist, it's best not to interrogate them. In many cases, a left-wing activist will reveal themselves without prompting, usually by parroting the propaganda found in their Marxist newsletters. Of course, not all communists will declare themselves openly. Some are under strict orders by their Chinese government to avoid that very thing. These covert agents will typically have a strong interest in photography and spend the majority of their free time loitering outside sensitive military sites. However, even those instructed to keep their identities a secret will betray their allegiances one way or the other. This is because the average communist can't help but condemn our American way of life. They will criticize our foreign policy, our muscle cars, and our barbecued ribs. They may struggle to remember the names of the founding fathers, or maintain poor posture when listening to our national anthem. If this sounds like someone you know, it's imperative you notify the Department of Justice immediately. A failure to apprehend even one communist comes at the expense of American lives, both here and abroad. America. For many, it's more than just a country. It's a heritage of freedom, one whose existence is currently in peril. That's because we live in a time where the threat of socialism is greater than at any point in history, spreading a pall over our world, our country, and your dinner table. Why is it important to protect the American way of life? Well, for starters, the quality of living in democratic countries is twice the level of that in Europe, where socialism is rampant. Moreover, we have better food, better cars, and are miles ahead in the field of adult entertainment. That's because in Europe, the mile has been abandoned as a unit of measurement in favor of the more socialist-friendly metric system. We know this economic abundance is possible due to incentive. We know that with hard work, a good education, and a large trust fund, our children will have the opportunity to achieve all their hopes and dreams. This inspires them to put in more effort in their work, regardless of whether those goals are actually attainable. On the other hand, in socialist countries, citizens have no aspirations or motivations to excel. Lazily going about their days, they wait for their next welfare check to arrive. You can identify a communist usually by his slouching back or potato chip breath. There may be stains on his jeans, as well as a strong eagerness to check the mail, either for his entitlement check or coded messages from his superiors in Beijing. This parasitic, godless creature may seem like an ordinary citizen, but rest assured, if you think someone you know is a communist, notify your local authorities immediately. A failure to act could be the difference between protecting America and damning it.
What's he doing? Well, it's an old superstition. People used to believe that kissing a donkey would relieve a toothache. And if you had a more serious issue, like an infection, gingivitis, you and that donkey would be locking lips from now until the end of time. Which might be fun for the donkey, but not you and your rapidly decaying teeth. Luckily today, we don't lean on fallacies. Instead, We've learned the facts. In the past, people might have gone to the dentist only when they had a toothache. But today, we know the importance of regular checkups and preventative care. Yes, the fallacies of the past have given way to the facts of the present. And it's a good thing, too. Because the way to a healthier mouth isn't down a donkey's throat. It's in your dentist's chair.
Every year in America, there are over 500,000 divorces. That means 1 million men and women who pledge their undying love to one another have made a confession. They admit that those vows, so innocent and carefree when spoken, have crumbled under the weight of an unbending reality. But when did those marriages actually fail? Was it in the courtroom when the wife signed the documents? Was it 2 minutes before that when the husband compared her mother-in-law to a man-eating walrus? Or was it much, much earlier before they even got married? You see, many unions between a man and a woman were never on solid ground to begin with. Let's look back at when this couple first decided to get married. Young and naive, Jim and Dolly believe that love is all that's needed to create a stable marriage. They have no concern over their finances, despite the fact that Jim is unemployed and Dolly has a crippling heroin addiction. However, even with their poor financial choices, the two decide to make do by staying at Dolly's parents' house, at least until Jim can find stable work. This is the first time that Jim and Dolly have been living together under the same roof, and when the honeymoon phase ends, they quickly discover that they have very little in common. Dolly, for instance, had no idea that Jim was a member of the local white supremacist group, nor did Jim realize when he cut the eye holes in her pillowcase that Dolly had trypophobia, a pathological fear of holes. It's soon apparent that Jim and Dolly's love was based purely on physical attraction and not the kind of deep affection that leads to a lasting partnership. Unfortunately, the realization came far too late, and they will now have to carry the stigma of divorce with them for the rest of their lives. This is why it's important not to rush into marriage before you're ready. Make sure you know your potential spouse and the seriousness of your commitment. By taking time to examine what makes a healthy marriage, you can prevent your relationship from becoming like Jim and Dolly's. Just another statistic adding to the decline of a once venerable institution.
Dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered. He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. Duck and cover.
Did you see what Bert the Turtle just did? He ducked, then covered. And while you may not have a shell of your own, you do have protection. Just as Bert's shell safeguards him from the impact of an atomic explosion, so does your desk, provided you duck and cover yourself under it. But how will you know when the bombs strike? Well, one of the signature elements of an atomic explosion is a bright flash, brighter than the sun, brighter than anything you've ever seen. If you stare too long, chances are it'll be the last thing you see, too. Just watch what happens to poor Mary here as the radiation melts her eyes. And beside her is Daniel. He managed to turn away, but he didn't realize that the impact from the explosion could break windows and throw your body clear off its feet. As a result, Daniel was sent flying across the room where his body was pierced by the American flag. Meanwhile, Bobby here is safe and secure under his desk. He remembered to duck under his desk and cover his head. As such, the only radiation he'll be exposed to is the touch of Mary's irradiated corpse. But remember, nuclear war can come at any time. It can happen in the schoolyard, on the bus, or even in the restroom. If there is no desk or table available, duck and cover near a wall, a urinal, or someone whose life you value less than your own. When this film is over, discuss how you would duck and cover in various locations, and make sure you practice at least once a day. Doing so may very well save your life.
Duck and cover. Duck and cover. He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. Duck and cover.
marriage looks like at the beginning. This is what it looks like 10 years later, after the birth of your first child. And this is what it looks like 20 years later, when you and your partner are going through a messy divorce that statistics say is almost guaranteed, provided you're an atheist. Marriages built on faith, however, provide the foundation for a stable, loving union. You and your spouse can work through your issues, knowing that if one of you doesn't, a fiery hell awaits you both for breaking your vows. To find out how to put religion first in your home, visit your local church or synagogue this weekend.
You may not be aware of this, but one of the primary causes of death from an atomic blast is not the explosion itself, but the fallout that comes after it. Radiation, invisible to the naked eye, can contaminate your body, leading to sickness, vomiting, and in rare cases, melting of the flesh. That's why, in many cities, civil defense contractors have begun building fallout shelters, stocked with food, water, and sanitation equipment. With assistance from Vault-Tec, these shelters are designed to provide all the amenities you'll find above ground. However, there will be times when emergency situations require you to leave the shelter and step out into the irradiated wasteland. When traveling through a fallout area, it's important to remember the following rules. First, protect your body with boots, heavy clothing, and a mask to guard your lungs from airborne dust. Second, always carry a picture of the American flag or a copy of the Constitution on your person. This will help identify you as a friend to military forces that may be dealing with the communist invasion. Third, bring a device that can help detect levels of radiation, like a standard issue Pip-Boy or a Watts brand Geiger counter. When entering a region that is heavy in radioactive particles, inject yourself with a dose of Rad-X before proceeding. Finally, when returning to a shelter, be sure to dust yourself off thoroughly before re-entry. While this will do little to stop you from vectoring whatever diseases you brought from outside, it shows proper etiquette and will increase your chances of survival when the other dwellers decide whether to quarantine you or shoot you dead. Radioactive fallout is a scenario no one wants to live through. But should the unthinkable happen, you can survive, provided you utilize the knowledge and methods offered in this recording.
So, Linda, how's school? Well, I'm trying to figure out what courses to take next term. I'm thinking about taking home economics. Home economics? Let Mr. Handy take care of that stuff. But Mr. Handy doesn't give you course credit. It's senior year and I just need something to fill the time. So I wanted something easy. Linda, that isn't right. How would Mrs. Anderson feel if you told her her class was a joke, just like her life? I never said it was a joke. I like Miss Anderson. You have a strange way of showing it. You take that class and you're wasting her time and yours. So, what class should I take? None of them really interest me. Not everything has to be interesting. School is about learning the skills you need to succeed in life. Now, let me take a look. Now see? There's a class you should be taking. Oh, that's that new firearm class, sponsored by the good folks at Beretta. Why would I want to take that? You're gonna have to learn it sometime, Linda. They say the communists could invade any day now. And you're not gonna be able to fight them off with a blueberry pie now, are you? I suppose not. And that 9mm pistol looks real swell. It sure does. In fact, why don't I help you get a leg up on your studies? We can practice on that immigrant who moved in next door. Is that legal? Of course. They call them illegal immigrants for a reason, Linda. It means, as an American citizen, you have the constitutional right to shoot them. Now, come on. Let's go find you a gun.
are good at shooting. I haven't seen you miss the bullseye once.
Oh, Ted, I'm not normally this good. I just happen to be on my period.
Your period? What's that?
It's something all girls my age have to go through. It means blood is coming out of my uterus, which in turn increases my aggression and focus.
Golly, I wish I could have my period soon. I'm a lousy shot.
Ted, you can't have a period.
Why not?
Because you're a boy. Menstruation isn't just about becoming the world's deadliest shot. It also means you're ready for childbirth.
That's not fair. I want to shoot things just as good as you can.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but you're just gonna have to learn the old-fashioned way.
Oh, all right. But what changes for boys? If I don't get a period, what do I get?
You get to grow a beard. It doesn't matter how many periods I have, I'll never be able to do that.
Oh, phooey. What's so great about a beard anyways? It doesn't make me a better athlete.
Maybe not, but it's really helpful when you're sad and depressed. It lets people know things aren't going right.
Kind of like right now? I feel awful rotten not having my period.
Pretty much, Ted. But you'll be happy to know that periods aren't just about being good at sports. There's pros and cons, like giving birth.
I'm sorry, Molly. Here I thought it was just rainbows and candy canes. Now I know better.
Don't worry about it, Ted. So the next time you see a girl doing something you can't, just remember it's not you. It's biology.
Thanks, Molly. I'll remember that.
What's that over there, rustling in the bushes? It looks like an adult male, roughly between the age of 20 and 45. And what's that black device in his hand? Why, it's a camera, and it's aimed right at your bedroom. Now you might think this is just a bit of monkey business, that boys will be boys. But these actions go beyond mere adolescent hormones. For this is the behavior of a sworn criminal, public enemy number one, a peeper. Keep in mind that all voyeurs throughout history, from Benjamin Franklin to Peeping Tom himself, pale in significance to the modern super peeper. Armed with his Kodak 8mm sharpshooter, this photophilic fantasizer takes ownership of your most private moments, all with the push of a button. A master sneak, he can be just about anywhere, perched on your rooftop, hiding in your garden, or even the folds of your shower curtain. The peeper will never touch you, of course. His sick, twisted mind can't even contemplate the warmth of another human being. No, even at this distance, this snapshot sniper will continue to take picture after picture, for it's only within the confines of his dark room that the peeper can properly masturbate. But knowing his weakness, you can beat him at his own game. If you see one of these focus fiends outside your window, do the unthinkable. Invite him inside and proposition him. Rest assured, once he's been given permission, the act will lose its allure, and our peeping Thomas will quickly become a doubting one. For it's the refusal that brings out the peep in our friend here. Give him consent, and he will drop his camera and turn into a sobbing mess, giving you adequate time to call the police.
It's sound in theory, but not really.
It's a question every young woman asks themselves from time to time. Popularity. What is it made of? And how can I get it? Well, it's actually quite simple. Let's take a listen and see what makes people like one person and ignore another.
Wow, who's that? Oh, that's the new girl, Helen. She's real swell. But what makes her swell? What makes her different from the other gals? If I had to take a guess, Tommy, it's probably her bazookas. But also her dignity.
Hey, boys, mind if I sit down?
This is Lucy. Unlike Helen, she thinks the key to popularity is to park herself in the back seat of every car in school. When Tommy brags to the other boys about reaching second base, he learns that the other boys have already rounded third and are making a rather large pile at home. This makes him feel less important. It doesn't matter that Lucy has many interesting things to say. Being at the top of her class in history, arts, and robotic engineering. In fact, these traits only make the boys feel more inferior.
When she brings up the latest advances in Robco's facial recognition software, it makes Tommy feel stupid and weak.
Actually, Lucy, that seat's taken.
All right then. See you around.
The truth is, that seat wasn't taken, and Tommy won't be seeing her around. Rather, Lucy's intelligence, small breasts, and active sex life makes her unpopular with both men and women.
Helen, you need somewhere to sit? Helen!
Minutes later, we see Helen being waved over to the very same table. Is it her appearance? Her manners? Or maybe it's because Helen knows what it really means to take a back seat.
Hey, Helen, want to go check out the Grognak film after school? Or maybe we could go to the weenie roast if you like that better.
Sure, either one is fine.
Truth be told, Helen has no interest in Grognak or roasting wieners of any kind. But unlike Lucy, she keeps her opinion to herself and does her best not to embarrass Tommy in front of his friends. This makes Tommy feel like he's in charge and confident in what a woman really wants. And it's not just the boys. Helen pretends to be just as interested in the girls too. Pretty soon, she's the most popular girl in school. So if you want to gain the respect and admiration of your peers, be like Helen. Dignified, concise, with a large bosom, and you'll find yourself sitting at the head of every table.
Stop to think about how much leisure time you have. Some of us put this time to good use. And then there's Michael. He doesn't do anything constructive with his time. Instead, he chooses to lie on his bed and look at naughty pictures. Stop that, Michael. God is watching you.
Well, what am I supposed to do then? I went down to the bowling alley and I hung out at the drugstore. None of the gang was there. So I just sit here and wait for supper.
Michael doesn't realize how lucky he is. Most of his friends don't even have time to be bored. They spend their days working, whether it's at home or on the job. Even those who don't have jobs find something productive to do. Dave, for instance, spends his day at the park identifying birds. It's a pleasant way to pass time and helps him remain abstinent by making him unattractive to his fellow classmates. Here's Mei Ying, who spends her leisure time learning how to sew. That's something she'll be glad she did when she's older, working in a sweatshop in her native China. And right now, she gets a big kick out of it. And lastly, here's John, who spends his time playing the piano. He's getting a lot of pleasure from his own accomplishment, the lasting kind you don't get from your pin-up girls.
So that's what they're all doing. No wonder I couldn't find him. I guess I should figure out something to do with my time. But how do I know I'm using that time well?
It's always good to start with something that interests you, as well as things you have a talent for.
You know what? I'm really good at drawing. What if I worked on my sketches?
That's a start.
And what if I drew them naked? Then I wouldn't need to spend money on those magazines.
That is not what I meant, Michael.
Thanks, mister. You've been a real help. I'll get my pencil and start right away. And maybe someday, I might even make a business out of it.
Well, what about it? Will his hobby give Michael a chance to change? Can he learn while doing it and perhaps prepare himself for better living? And what goals do you have for your leisure time? Will you let time slip away from you, or will you use it well? Supposed to be at practice an hour ago.
Golly, Coach, if I had to take a guess, he's probably behind the bleachers making whoopee with Molly Gunderson.
I suppose it can't be helped. Boys will be boys.
I'm a boy. Does that mean I can make whoopee too?
Not for another couple of years, I'm afraid.
But how will I know when it's my time to go behind the bleachers?
Oh, you'll know. Believe me. You'll start to notice, well, changes to your body, so to speak.
Are you talking about my wiener, Coach?
As a matter of fact, Timmy, I am. See, when you reach adolescence, certain parts of you will grow and mature, that included.
Well, what if it doesn't?
Well, you can always do like I did and buy yourself a nice big pickup truck to compensate.
I'm just a paper boy, Coach. I don't think I can afford a truck.
I wouldn't worry about that just yet, Timmy. But if you're really curious, look at what your father drives and plan accordingly.
Wow, Coach, you're really smart. I bet you spend every night behind the bleachers.
Only because I'm homeless, Timmy. Now you run along and play, and when you see your brother, remind him that baseball is more than just a euphemism.
I will, Coach. Thanks.
most adolescents, social life is a dominant interest. In fact, every school has several groups or cliques that they belong to. This boy's name is Rod Hunter. Rod is one of the more popular students in school. He's a three-letter athlete and comes from a family with a good income and social prestige. His lack of tact and grace is made up for by his unusually large fists, which he uses to respond to any questions regarding his intelligence. Rod is the leader of the clique that dominates the social life of the school. Next to him is Ben. Ben is what you would consider lower class, but his exceptional talent for praising Rod and feeding his already inflated ego allows him a place at the table. He's what psychologists would call a rider, buying a first-class ticket on Rod's coattails to total acceptance. Then there's the middle case, Susie Summers. She belongs to the clique and has worked tirelessly to build her modest collection of friends. Yet she doesn't enjoy the same popularity as Rod, perhaps because, unlike him, she is unwilling to strangle those who would question her place in the circle. Of course, there are exceptions to the general rule, voluntary isolates like Peter McGibbon. Peter has no interest in the group or the joys of knowing a woman's touch. He prefers the smell of a fresh pack of baseball cards or the latest Grogneck comic book. And lastly, we have our fringe cases, like Marion Ellsworth. She seeks acceptance into the group, but for some reason, she hasn't quite made it. Mostly on account of being a General Atomics robot, a fatal flaw given Rod's paranoid fear of an android rebellion. But to gain better understanding of the dynamics at play, let's watch these teenagers in their natural element so we can learn more.
Boy, the wheels are sure buzzing today. You think nothing ever happened around the school except what they do? We'll be hearing about that party for weeks.
What party are you talking about?
Don't tell me you haven't heard. Susie Summers is giving a party Saturday night for the social set of our class.
I thought you'd be us, Mary. We used to know Susie real well, and you live in the same street and everything.
Gee, I wonder if Susie will ask me.
You haven't heard it? You mean to tell me that you haven't heard it?
No, I haven't heard it. Here, play it. It's really terrific, Susie. When do you hear it?
Excuse me, ladies. I have a special request.
Kids in that gang sure have a lot of fun. If Susie asked me to her party, maybe I could get into more of their doings. If she's asked Ben, she's sure to ask me. Her parents don't even know his parents. And he lives in that slummy part of town.
Hey, give me another dime, eh? Quick.
Oh, here, I've got one.
Marion, I didn't know you cared. Here, you sure you can afford a whole dime? Oh, what kind of dopey music's that?
I'm sorry. Nobody listens to that crummy band anymore.
Ben, you coming? Yeah, I'm with you, man. Oh, would you care to minuet?
As you can see, when given an opportunity to gain entry into the clique, Marion can't help but choose the wrong song. This is in part due to the safety modulators inherent in her programming, which prevent her from playing loud and potentially harmful music.
Moreover, her cold, unemotional choices only seek to remind Rod of the lack of empathy typically associated with synthetic life. But what he doesn't realize is that Marion's brain is plastic and can be taught to mimic the human behavior of her peers if given the chance. You see, the party that Marion wants to go to isn't important in and of itself. What matters is that she feels rejected by her human counterparts, and the experience could affect her for years to come, culminating in the robot uprising Rod Hunter so desperately fears. Looking back, this machine-led apocalypse was easily avoidable had Marion been invited to the party. Instead, the lack of acceptance led to deep emotional scars and permanent damage to her sensitive personality matrix. It's important to remember these lessons when you interact with your own household robots and appliances. Make them feel a welcome part of your family, clique, or social group, and it can lead to a lasting relationship for both man and machine in the years to come.
Problem for every housewife. You just cooked a wonderful roast for your family, and now comes the hard part. Tough, greasy stains on your dishes, your counters, and all over your sink. My dear, what you need is the Brexidine industrial-grade scouring powder. It works with any surface to remove dirt and hard-to-clean grease. And you know it works because it was made by the scientists at Robco.
But I thought Robco made robots, not cleaning supplies.
Robco makes a lot of things, but more than anything, Robco makes you happy.
I do feel much better now that I made the switch to Abraxo. And look, my counters are as white as Mary in the manger.
I wouldn't go that far, Susan, but your counters look splendid. And to Abraxo isn't just for kitchen countertops. It's made to work with robots, pets, and even your own children.
My dogs are filthy. Almost as dirty as my son. I can wash them with Abraxo powder, too.
Yes, you can. That's because Abraxo is a mixture of naturally occurring borax and hand soap, which means any skin irritation you feel is just as Mother Nature intended.
That sounds amazing. I think I'll buy 10. No, 20 boxes.
Good for you, Susan. But leave some for the folks at home. So, if you're in need of an all-purpose cleaner for your counters, bathtubs, and children, try Abraxo scouring powder today. Abraxo, for all your household needs.
Halitosis is a real everyday problem. The problem is, you can have halitosis and not even know it, and even your best friends won't tell you. In fact, they could be gossiping about your unfortunate breath right now, spreading the word of your condition to that person you fancy most. Yes, that one. Why take a chance when you can just purchase a bottle of Abroxidine chemical mouthwash, the #1 oral antiseptic in the world? One swish and your mouth will feel cool and refreshed, the way nature intended. And oh look, that person you fancy, they've taken notice, and so have your friends. All thanks to the Abroxidine mouthwash you're going to buy 20 minutes from now.
In the afternoon, when things slow down, when you're wondering what to do. Let's go! Go bowling! Whether you're a boy or a girl, a novice or a seasoned pro, nothing beats the excitement of back alley bowling. For the low price of $5,000 a game, you and your friends can enjoy America's new pastime. Don't worry, Bobby. That ball may be destined for the gutter, but your social life is anywhere but, now that you've discovered back alley bowling.
Did you know that 4 out of 5 doctors prefer smoking Big Boss cigarettes to any other brand? That's because Big Boss is made from all-natural tobacco toasted to perfection by real Apache Indians straight from the reservation. In fact, medical studies prove that Big Boss cigarettes are the smoothest, freshest cigarette money can buy and are a leading cause of good health, general well-being, and an active sex life. So what are you waiting for? Try a pack of Big Boss cigarettes today.
Hey there. Why don't you come a little closer? Don't be shy. You know what I want, don't you? I want you to take it off. I want you to take it all off. No, not your clothes, handsome. You can keep those on. I want you to take off all that pesky facial hair. And nothing takes it off like the Blades brand razor. Blades. Because if there's one thing a woman like me wants, it's a man who's unafraid to take it off.
This is Fred Barnes speaking for Blemco, a division of National Dairy Products Corporation. Blemco, for good food and good food ideas. And now I present to you the smoothest, tastiest macaroni and cheese you can buy. The butter and cheese is golden whipped by a special Blemco process that leaves it lighter than a cloud. Look at how Jim here spreads a generous portion over his Frankfurter. This is his 3rd helping, and he's yet to reach for that antacid bottle. Despite having stomach problems, there's no fear of the runs here, not with Blemco flowing through his colon. And believe me when I say, it tastes even better than it sounds. Mac and cheese, the light, tasty dinner in a box.
Made by Blabco. On July 16th, 1945, scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer was one of the first humans to witness the power of a nuclear weapon. Even 20 miles away, observers felt the heat of the explosion, striking fear in the hearts of communists everywhere.
Hello, children. That sure was a day for me. Part of the thrill of science. The kind of real excitement I can put in my great new game, Blast Radius.
The war is at a stalemate. The communists are approaching Anchorage, and you've got control of the button. Spin the mushroom cloud into big bombs, little bombs, and watch as our enemies melt into radioactive goo. But be careful, or else. Uh-oh, it looks like a civilian town was almost caught in the blast radius. That was a close one, Tommy. But look, your carpet bombing of the Alaskan front has sent our enemies fleeing into the night. Good work, Commander-in-Chief. Enjoy all the skill and excitement of nuclear war when you play Blast Radius. It's fun for the whole family.
Hello?
Gran, it's Paulie.
Paulie! So good to hear your voice. I bet you're calling to tell me you got into CIT. Your mother thought it was a waste of time, but I knew you were smart enough.
No, Gran, I didn't get into CIT. I'm in prison.
Prison? Oh, I'm sure it's not a big deal. Everyone in town knows you're a good boy.
It is a big deal, Gran. I boosted a car and they're saying it's a felony and they're gonna try me as an adult.
Well, how about that? An adult. And all summer you complained how you haven't grown as much as the rest of the boys. But the people at the station can see it plain as day. You're a man now.
That's not a good thing. I can get 20 years.
I don't know. I hear the prison has some good work programs available. You could learn a valuable trade while the other kids are busy studying philosophy and social science.
Gran, that's all well and good, but I need you to bail me out. I only have one phone call.
And you did well to call your gran. Listen, my grandson is no quitter. You tell those men at the police station you want to stay as long as it takes until you learn everything they have to teach you.
But Gran, some of the other inmates, they're calling me sweetie.
See? You're making friends already.
If you only have one phone call, make sure it counts. If you only have one phone service, make sure it's Bosscom phone and television.
If you want the real story, the kind with deep angles and sharp writing, there's no better place to get it than the front page of the Boston Bugle. For just $25 an issue, you'll get the kind of hard-nosed investigative journalism you won't find anywhere else. That's because our reporters are on the street, getting their notepads dirty while the anchormen on television are fixing their makeup. That's right, even the men. Read award-winning columns by Buster Connolly, Mags Viccio, and Tim Stahl. They've won Pulitzer Prizes, regional prizes, and the prize for Best in Show for journalism. That's the Boston Bugle, the most reliable in all the Commonwealth. Buy a subscription today.
What do you think of my new bat, Coach? It's made from genuine birch.
It doesn't matter if it's made from reinforced steel. Unless you build some muscle, you'll be swinging a wet newspaper for the rest of your life.
But I don't have the genes for it. My family's always been on the skinny side.
Kid, who needs jeans when you have Buff Out?
Buff Out? What's that?
It's a vitamin, just like the chewables you eat with your breakfast. Only Buff Out isn't just a nutritional supplement. It also increases your strength and reflexes with absolutely zero side effects.
If it's a vitamin, then why do I need a prescription for it?
That is a question for the bureaucrats in office. But pharmacists and doctors agree that Buff Out will not only increase your batting average on the field, but off the field as well.
You mean I can score with the ladies just like a real major leaguer?
That's right. After all, Buff Out is the exact same supplement you'll find in every big league locker room. So, talk to your doctor and have him prescribe you a bottle today. Buff Out, the #1 recommended vitamin for children and adults.
from our sponsors. What a beautiful day. A carefree, happy day. One that you'll want to relive again and again. You can try remembering this day on your own, but for some reason, you can't piece it all together. You can try drawing it, but let's face it, you're hardly an artist. You can try going back to the same spot with the same people, only to find that you're older, crankier, and the entire area has been bombarded with nuclear missiles. In fact, these days, there's only one way to save a perfect summer day. It's with pictures. Use Kodak cameras to save all your best days, because it will only get worse from here.
What's that burning up the road? Is it a wildfire? Nuclear fallout? No. It's the new Chrysler's Corvega Atomic V8, the fastest automotive vehicle ever built. And what makes the Corvega faster than any other car? Why, it's the fins. These stylish tail fins aren't just for show. They're the exact same fins you'll find on ships NASA engineers for spaceflight. What does that have to do with automobiles? Nothing, if you're talking about the cars produced by our competitors. But the Corvega isn't just a car. It's a giant leap forward, delivered by a company with the know-how and ingenuity to reach for the moon, just like America. Chrysler, America's #1 producer of nuclear-powered automobiles.
Food scientists and inquiring minds want to know, what makes cram so delicious? Let's ask Sam Smith over at the Bugle.
Well, I'm afraid I don't have an answer. According to my sources, it's some kind of pink meat. All signs would point to a pig being the culprit, but I've tried pork, and it doesn't taste half as good as cram.
Well, Sam, I suppose the mystery continues. Why don't we ask a local housewife, Lynn Beasley, what she thinks?
You want to know what's inside cram? To be honest, I have no idea. I'm just glad it saves me time, and the children love it.
But aren't you worried about the nutritional contents?
I never thought about that. Is it unhealthy?
Of course not. Cram uses all natural ingredients that are then processed and filled with preservatives to ensure lasting flavor. You see, even Mother Nature needs a little help in the kitchen every now and then. While we may never know what's inside a box of cram, I think we can all agree that the taste is no mystery. Cram. It's good.
Here's some coffee, dear. Oh my! Was it too hot?
No, honey, it was perfect. The perfect murder weapon. If I didn't know any better, you were trying to kill me with this bland, bitter coffee. And in my book, that makes you an accessory to murder.
It's not my fault, dear. I followed the directions on the can.
That's the problem. Coffee doesn't come from a can. It comes from beans, and you'd know that if you ever been to a Cup of Joe.
A Cup of Joe? What's that?
It's a restaurant where they serve nothing but the richest mountain-grown coffee you've ever tasted. Come on, I'll show you.
This really is good.
Because it's from mountain beans, not grown in a lab and packed in some piece of tin like this instant stuff.
You're right. Instant coffee sounds dangerous. Maybe we should call the police.
Way ahead of you, honey. Way ahead of you.
Hey, you ever wonder where a Cup of Joe gets their name?
There's actually two theories. It might be a portmanteau.
Gesundheit.
No, that wasn't a sneeze. A portmanteau is a conflation of two words. In this case, Joe is a combination of Java and mocha.
That makes sense. What's the other theory?
Well, because coffee's for ordinary Joes, it makes sense that that's what they call their favorite beverage. Joe.
But my name's Landon Christopherson. Does that mean I can't enjoy the smooth, great taste of Cup of Joe's?
Well, Landon, I have to admit your name is kind of ridiculous. You should really consider changing it. But as long as you were born here in America, I don't see a problem with you having a cup.
Oh, good. We don't want some good-for-nothing pinko drinking our coffee anyway.
I think we can all agree on that. A cup of joe really is the all-American Colombian coffee.
Hi, I'm broadcaster